Hi, good day. This is Teacher Maria. Welcome back to our class. Last week we studied about food additives. Okay, we studied about food colorings, food flavorings, and preservatives. I hope you understood our lesson. So food colorings are chemicals added to our food to make the food look appealing to our eyes. Okay. Food flavorings enhances the flavor of the food, and preservatives makes the food be able to be stored longer. Okay. Today, last week I asked you to we answered this one, and last week I asked you to answer your workbook. Okay, so for today we're going to continue unit 1 with about digestion. Okay, so last week we answered this already. So today we're going to study about how do we digest the food we eat. Okay, so from the previous lessons we said that from the food that we eat, we get nutrients. We get carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. So for carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, they are too big for the body to be able to absorb. No. Vitamins, minerals, and water can be readily absorbed by our body. So for carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, they need to be broken down into smaller or simpler substances. Now, this is the function of the digestive system. So for today, we're going to focus about digestive system, okay? So here is the diagram of the digestive system. It's also in your book. So we start with the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine. Okay, so this is where the food flow. Now in the after the large intestine, we have the rectum and the anus. Okay, in the digestive system, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas, they are organs that are also important. Okay, so for today we have to understand what are the functions of these organs. Okay, so we start with the mouth. Okay, so in our mouth we have the teeth, the tongue. Okay, so digestion begins in the mouth. Okay, the food is mixed in the mouth. So the saliva in our mouth contains enzyme that digest starch into glucose. Okay, starch into glucose or sugar. Okay, so the teeth grind our food, make it into smaller pieces so it's easier for us to swallow. Okay, now the tongue helps to mix the food and also helps us to swallow the food. Okay, again, in the mouth we have teeth and the tongue and the saliva. Okay, so the teeth grinds the food, the saliva contains enzymes to digest starch into glucose or sugar, and the tongue helps to mix the food with the saliva and helps us to swallow the food. Now when we swallow the food will go into our esophagus. Right here, after we swallow, the food will go down into the esophagus. Okay, now the esophagus is a long muscular tube that pushes the chewed food from the mouth to the stomach. So if we're going to go back again to the diagram, the esophagus is a passage of the food. So from the mouth, the food will go down to the stomach. It will pass through the esophagus. Okay, it will pass through the esophagus. The esophagus is an involuntary muscle. So when you say involuntary, it works on its own. Okay, so when we swallow the food, we do not have to think. We do not have to think, oh, the food should go down. No, it will move it moves on its own. Okay, the food will go into the stomach. Okay. Now, the stomach is a muscle as well. Now, it helps mix the food with gastric juice and stomach acid. Now, in the stomach, we have gastric juice and stomach acid. Now, the gastric juice produced in the stomach, it contains enzymes that digest proteins, okay? So, the gastric juice in the stomach contains an enzyme that digest protein, okay, digest protein, and the stomach acid helps the enzyme work, okay. Also, the stomach acid kills the bacteria, the germs in the food that we eat, okay. Now, in here it says the food stays in the stomach for about 3 to 4 hours before entering the small intestine. So the food will be in our stomach for 3 to 4 hours. That's why we stay full after eating. For example, we eat breakfast at 7 a.m. We can still feel full for 3 to 4 hours, and then we will start to be hungry again, okay? Now, after the stomach, the food will go, the partially digested food will go to the small intestine, okay, or small intestine. Okay. But before we go on to the small intestine, let's discuss about the liver first, okay? Now, the liver produces bile. Okay, it's a greenish yellow fluid. It breaks the fats into small droplets. This helps speed up the digestion of fat. Okay, so the liver, the food that does not pass through the liver, but the liver produces bile. Now, this bile helps to digest or break up the fats in the food that we eat. Okay, it helps us speed the digestion of fats. Okay, it says here the liver has many functions. It also stores vitamins A, B, and D. Okay, and it also stores minerals such as iron. Okay, and it also turns toxins into harmless substances. So our liver is very important. It has many functions. Okay, the gallbladder, if you will remember, the gallbladder store the bile. So the liver produces the bile and it is stored in the gallbladder. Okay, let's go back to the diagram. So here the liver produces the bile and the bile is stored in the gallbladder. Okay, here, see, the liver produces the bile and the bile will pass through the and will be stored in the gallbladder. Okay, and the bile duct is a tube that carries bile from the gallbladder to the small intestine. Now, from the gallbladder, the bile will go to the small intestine through the bile duct. Okay, now pancreas, this one produces pancreatic juice, which contains a mixture of enzymes that digest carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. See, these three organs, they are very important in digesting. They are needed in digestion because they produce enzymes that helps digest proteins and fats and carbohydrates. Okay, now, when the food is in the small intestine, the food is mixed with the bile, the pancreatic juices, and the intestinal juice, okay? The intestinal juice from the small intestines contain enzyme as well. So, in the intestines, they also contain enzymes that digest carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So the digestion is not yet complete, no? After the stomach, the food is not yet fully digested. Digestion will continue in the small intestine. Now, digested nutrients move up from the small intestine and enters into the blood, okay? Vitamins and minerals in the small intestine are also absorbed into the blood. Nutrients are brought to the liver where they are stored or sent to different parts of the body that need them. okay? And the small intestine is very long and narrow, okay? I'll show you. See this? This is the small intestine, okay? It's very long, na? It's usually um, around 6 to 7 meters, okay? Or 3 to 4 times your height. So if your height is 1.5 meters, you multiply it to 3 or 4 times. That's the length of your small intestine. It's very long, okay? And then this is the large intestine, okay? Okay, and this is the rectum and then the anus, okay? So let's go back. The large intestine. Now, after this, in the small intestine, the nutrients will be absorbed into our body, okay? Now, the undigested food, those fiber that the body cannot digest, will go to the large intestine. Now, the large intestine absorbs water and minerals from the undigested food. Okay, the food enters the large intestine and then it will absorb the water and the minerals, okay? And then it will go to the rectum, okay? In the rectum, the undigested food will harden, okay, and becomes feces, okay? And will be temporarily stored in the rectum. And then the feces will be pushed out of the body in the anus, okay? See? You can answer this one. Label the parts of the digestive system. It's easy, okay, in your student book. Let's go back first to the diagram. Let's summarize the digestive system, okay? So again, from the start, the mouth will chew the food, make it into smaller pieces. When we swallow the food will pass through the esophagus, okay? And then it will go to the stomach, okay? Now in the stomach, it will stay there for 3 to 4 hours, okay? Digestion will continue in the stomach. The stomach contains gastric juice and stomach acids, okay? And also the enzymes from the liver and the pancreas will go into the stomach as well. And then the partially digested food will go to the small intestine, okay? Then digestion will continue in the small intestine and absorption of nutrients will happen in the small intestine, okay? And then the undigested food will go into the large intestine, okay? Now in the large intestine, water and minerals will be absorbed as well. And then it will go into the rectum. It will be stored there temporarily and then it will be pushed out of the body through the anus, okay? I will share a video about digestive system. Watch them as well and then answer your works, okay? Bye! See you!